que te habla es la maldita crema Tony Leyenda, and you're now tuned into 3 Count Podcast.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby, grind on me.
Welcome everyone to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, after, season 5, our 300 and something episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You can find this man at AAW. You can find this man at NAW. You can find this man at the Wrestling Open. You can find this man at SKPW. He is an Air Force veteran. He is internationally known. He is repping the NYC, El Rey de Dominican Republica, and he is Tony Leyenda.
You missed one though. You missed probably the most important one, significant one in my career though.
What's that?
World Wrestling Council superstar. I'm part of their roster right now officially. And for my wrestling buffs out there, you know what WWC is, right? Company started by Carlos Colon, WWE Hall of Famer. I'm a part of their roster right now, and let's just say that I've been killing it for the last 3 months.
Let's go. See, this is what happens. Like, you keep doing research and you keep looking for stuff, and then like you just got to keep digging, and then you find out where everybody else has been. So no, man, big props to that too.
Yeah, man, thanks.
So listen, we've met in a couple different places, sitting here BSing and stuff, and then like we get to talking, and the idea is just also was like, yo, this conversation flows so naturally. It's like, we gotta have this kind of conversation on the podcast, man, because I was like, just the idea that you and I, like I said, right before we even started recording this, we have this similar path of what we've done just throughout life. And I was like, bro, let's chop it up.
Yeah, man. Not many people, obviously, I'm always in character. I'm always doing my thing, gotta be careful, especially with this heat that I have in Puerto Rico now. But not many people understand that, the background is pretty, it's unique, I guess you can say. It's regular to us, but I guess the people is unique, and they would never put 2 and 2 together, especially when you have the ponytail and the beard, the way you look, and blah, 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 blah. They expect a certain, like, I guess they attach a certain image to what we used to do, but nah, what we used to do was very, very much a part of my life because I did it for so long. It's still essentially all in fact, I'm living this life. I live more in that world than I did in the life that I'm living now, which is crazy to me.
See, and that's how I thought about it too, because like the one thing about the, like, at least on the Air Force side of things, right, is that like you have, and it's weird because I compared it to wrestling and the Air Force, right, in the same aspect of like everybody has a job and everybody wants to do the best that they can for the job, ultimately to do something bigger than themselves, right? So in the Air Force, we're always talked about, integrity first, service before self, excellence in all you do. And those are the same core principles that we take over to wrestling, right? We want to be the best. We want to make it better. We want to be, do it respectfully, right? But you also understand you have to stand up for yourself too at times. But it's one of those things where it's like, as you're working, as you're grinding, everybody's on the same mission as you are. So everybody understands like, hey, I have a role. This is my role. I'm going to do the best I can to support the bigger mission. And I think when you get into wrestling, everybody has roles, everybody kind of understands where they are, and then they try to push themselves to make the show bigger than what it is.
Yeah. To me, I see a lot of new guys come into the business, or attempting to hand on it, and they don't get certain things that to me are rather easy. Like, I'm a security forces guy, so we have a very militant type background in the Air Force, which is not many people understand the dynamics, but it's like we're good at following instructions, we're good at leading. We're good at being aggressive when we have to, because it's a very aggressive type of job that we do. But also, you start noticing that the Air Force probably prepared us for wrestling business more than we thought. Whether it's the travel, whether it's the camaraderie, whether it's knowing your job, like you said. But you even see the difference between a veteran and someone who owns their actual rank. Like, you see somebody in the wrestling business. I've been wrestling for 20 years. Well, you look like you've been 10 days out of into wrestling. Same thing, you say, well, there's a difference between I got promoted to Master Sergeant. Well, there's a difference between E7 and Master Sergeant, right? And it's the same kind of dynamic in wrestling. And you start learning how to kind of navigate to that, because you have that, I guess, that resiliency that you build up through that comes naturally through your service, So it's
Yeah.
cool how you can,
And even
yeah,
yeah, even for me, like I was on the intel side of things, man. So like I kind of got the structure, kind of understood that repetitions matter, right? So you're always like in the movements or trying to figure stuff out. And then you have to have a key eye to detail. Like you have to
yep,
know about what's going on everywhere. Otherwise, like if you're not paying attention, something can happen and then, it's a disaster for everything else. So it's one of those things where I've told people like, yo, like if you've never been in that life in the military, like it's an experience and it's something that you should get into, and then it'll prepare you for whatever else is happening on the outside. Because I know I've talked to friends who are Marines and guys who are in the Army and some people who are in the Navy and Coast Guard. And fortunately, I've been able to have all the branches on this show. And just to have those conversations and see everybody has that same mentality of like, hey, no, we understand like there are roles, there are things you do, there are certain ways you handle certain situations, and then you keep it pushing and you keep working to get better. And I see it with so many people, whether it would be like a Flip Gordon type, or you see before she retired, Ember Rodriguez, right? She was big in the Coast Guard. A good friend of mine, Elijah Friday, who, he's former Navy. And I just see we all have that same mentality of like, listen, we know our roles, we know what we want to do, we're going to get better, and then we're going to help push everybody else around us to be better by doing it respectfully and teaching, because we're not going to be those guys who are just like you said, I'm that veteran that's been around for 15 years and I wrestled in one promotion for the last 20 of those, or those last 14 of those last 15 years. It's like, well, then what are you doing? Because like like you clearly out of country, been going out of country, coming back in. Me myself, I've gone from the DMV into the tri-state area and into the New England area. So it's like you're hitting those miles and you understand like what good leadership looks like versus someone who's just like, no, you're doing it all wrong, do it this way. I'm like, well, that also works too, but all right, cool.
yeah. And then you have the kind of that like drive, that steadfastness built into you where you don't mind work. Like, yeah, we want to work towards a purpose, but we don't mind sacrificing. Like that's something to learn how to deal with even now. Like sacrifice. You hear that a lot in wrestling, sacrifice, and it's like inside I'm just like, don't talk to me about sacrifice. Like not that I've done it all, but I've done enough sacrificing. Like I get it. This is all sacrifice, but in all reality, I realized lately that I'm sacrificing even more now. I don't necessarily mind it because it's already embedded in me. Joe that may want to do this, may not want to do this, they're not sure. We'll take the drive, pay the flight, we'll do what we gotta do. We'll do business when the business is right, obviously. And it's not a thing. It's not a thing because we're used to it. You know what I mean? And because we love this and we have buy-in into this business, we care about it, we want to put our best foot forward. And these are all things that I picked up in the Air Force. But the thing is that I never realized that I picked up on it because to me, and you probably could relate, it's just a 9 to 5. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's just my desk looks a little different than theirs, but it's like this is normal. And then people tell you enough times you're not normal. I'm like, well, screw you, but I get what they mean. They don't mean in a malicious way. It's just we're different.
Yeah.
Like,
And
you know,
I get it too. I mean, like, I think it's funny because like I was listening to like Miro, right? He was on AEW's Unrestricted, and he was, yeah, it's your shout out for that podcast, by the way. But Miro was talking about how he became like a taxi driver. He flew in from, he's obviously from like Bulgaria, or I think that's right. He flew in. He didn't really have anything. He just started grinding. He became a taxi driver, and he felt like everything that he was doing was putting him in position for understanding what the business was like. And where you and I, like, being in the military, it's always about get up and go, move somewhere, do this, take care of this. I know you have your family's birthday, your family day this day, but we're gonna need you coming to work if you can move that. Like, we understand the sacrifice thing. And it is the one thing that I tell people all the time, because a lot of people are like the and it's one piece of advice that a lot of people tell me, and it's, I don't mind hearing it, right? But they're always like, yeah, you should always bring your bag with you to get ready. And I'm like, that's crazy, because if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. So like
right.
my bag is always packed. Like my gear right now, because I worked a show this last Saturday. You guys can look that up. But my gear is like in the laundry basket right now. It's gonna get washed. It's gonna back in my bag probably by tomorrow. And then I'm not even booked for anything. So just in case I just randomly pop up on a show, like, oh, guess what? now I'm always ready to go. And I think that's a mentality I feel like a lot of people forget that, just stay ready. If you're actively ready, you're always ready. You don't have to worry about it.
Yep. That's my. It's funny. My bag is. I got to fly out to Puerto Rico on Friday, and this is already ready to go. That's it. Toiletries. You know what's funny? You know what used to get me upset in the military when you start becoming a leader? I remember people used to wait to deployments to get in shape because they're away from home. They could focus more. They could do. It's like you deploy, you work a lot, but because you work a lot and just stay there, you have a lot more time to do other things like schoolwork, gym. So a lot of guys would wait to deployment to get in shape. And to me, I'm like, when I got older, of course, I was like, that's completely backwards. Like, no, we can't. You got to get ready to go to combat, and we continue to improve, and it's weird, but wrestling business, yeah, it kind of teaches you that, like, same thing as military. You don't have to get ready. If you're ready, you are ready. You got to be ready to go, man. That's what we do at a
So
moment's notice.
I'll be honest, man. I was one of those guys who fell victim to it because, like, I had been working out and I had been running and doing stuff like that, but I wasn't in great shape. And then when I went to overseas, when I got stationed in Iraq, I was like, I didn't know what to do. And so for the first 3 months, like, it's my first deployment. No one's really there to kind of teach me the ropes or teach me what to do. So I'm trying to figure things out. And like I was one of the few who like gained weight because, like, even though I never went outside the wire, for for those who are like, oh my god, but I was still in the country and I just didn't know what to do. And so it was like January, I realized, I was like, I could actually just go to the gym, start working out, and just start getting myself into shape and just feel better. And so it started with me like doing little bits of things, right? Get on a treadmill, or not on a treadmill, but on like the elliptical, and started working on elliptical. And then I started working on some lifting and stuff like that. And I got into pretty good shape. I went back home. Or back to home front. I was doing pretty good. Fell off, got back on it. And then when I got out the military, I was like, I'm out the military. I'm not even getting into pro wrestling. I'm just gonna be chilling out. And then randomly, I was like, I graduated college. I was like, I need to do something with my life. And my daughter legitimately told me I was getting squishy, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta get. I was like, I become that guy. I become one of those guys. And then I was like, I gotta get to working out. And so then from then on, like, that's all I've done. And then the military side of me kicked in. It was like, oh, this is now a habit. We're just going to keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this. And then adding other elements to it to make it more efficient. And then when I got into pro wrestling, like, I was already in decent shape, but I wasn't in great shape. And then like I just kept working, and then I felt like I was just getting better. And then I got into better shape. And then I was like, all right, now we're getting somewhere. And
It's
even
yeah.
this last year, bro, like, I was like about to turn it up even more and like go balls out and just see how far we can push this thing. So I don't know what this journey's gonna be, but it'll be fun.
It's a you know what workplace culture thing. Like the military is like it's a business, so you have everybody has their roles, like you said earlier, right? People think that the military is just army does this. I'm like, my brother-in-law he just retired from the army a year ago, and he's never seen a day in combat. It's just because he had a different job. Everybody has a role. So in your case, you're not the only one that experienced that you gain weight out there. It's workplace culture. My job, we had no choice. We didn't have to walk around with chiseled abs like a 300, but we had to have the functional fitness to be able to perform no matter what. So you train
Yep.
towards that. You know what I mean? Because I had no idea what I was doing in the gym either. I just know that I had to go and do whatever I had to do. It's just different culture, different workplace culture mentality. But the the influence that the military kind of subconsciously instilled in you, you still have that to make you, to nest that into this world right now, professional wrestling and, you know, personal wellness and stuff like that. So it's man, it all leads us to the same place. We just take different routes because of what we do professionally. And you're an intel guy. I couldn't do what you do. In fact, when I took my ass back, that job was not offered to me. All right, let's just be serious. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. I chose my job and I was happy because it's the job I wanted. But let's be serious. I was not getting offered any type of intel job. It was my ASVAB score wearing no. It's just not going to happen. And today I
No,
probably do the same. You know,
well, my ASVAB score was like, I'll be real when I tell people my ASVAB score. I think it was score like a 78 or an 80, and then my recruiter was like, "Hey man, like, yeah, we'll just wait. We'll see if there's some jobs that pop up, and then we'll go from there." And then this girl who was in front of me, she's getting ready to leave, right? She was in the intel position, She got busted for smoking weed
Uh,
right before. No, I'm sorry. She got a tattoo. That's what it was. She got a tattoo in um she got a tattoo and she had to get a waiver for the approval. And because she got it like 3 days before she was supposed to ship out, um, they like had to push her back, and then she lost her job. Then they gave her the Intel job, and then she she ate some brownies. Then she got busted, and so they're like, Cliff, do you want an Intel position? I was like, I don't know what that is. They're like, well, this is how my recruiter sold it to me. You're gonna be like working. It's almost like you're working with James Bond. Like you can be working with some different groups, some different people, and then you're gonna be doing some. I was like, oh yeah, bet, set me up. Only to find out that I was like the assistant to the assistant's best friend's cousin's third nephew's assistant, who then may have had like coffee with James Bond one time, and I was like, yo, I got tricked.
that's how they do it, man. That's how they do it. They sell it. They paint a pretty picture, man. But it's funny, man. I didn't join for like this urge to serve my country, man. Rough in New York, man. I just my life, or not necessarily that I was gonna go down the wrong path. I don't, but I wasn't doing good. I was miserable, not doing good, and I had to do something different. And this is what this is '05, so that was 11 wasn't too far. We weren't too far. 11, and I had to leave. And even though it was rough, it was legit. It was one of the best decisions I made. The best decision I made professionally is becoming a professional wrestler. But the Air Force, I could tell you a bunch of bad things, but I promise you, for every bad thing I say, I probably have two or more good things to say, because they take, but they give, but they take, and so you have to
Yeah.
figure out that balance. They're gonna use you because you're an asset, but you got to figure out how to use them. And I think I milked it. I think I milked I got him good. I got him good, and I went up pretty far, man. I went up in a quick time too. I'm really happy. I'm proud.
Yeah,
I could.
and well, I mean, like anybody who was in like should be proud of like how. Yeah, I'll be real, man. I got out as an E4, and I joined in 2006, and I got out in 2012, and I got out as an E4, and I was very happy. And I missed my E5 by point 3 points to make E5 my last year, and I was like, you know what, I'm good. And the funny part is how I joined the military because I was kind of heading down a bad path too, even though like in college wise. I had failed out my first college, went to like a junior college, and I was on the dean's list. I was doing well, and I got jumped in a parking lot, and my dad was like, "You're heading down a bad path. I need you to get out of here for a little bit." And I was like, "Okay." And so I originally wanted to go Army, and my dad was like, "Nope, I'm gonna put you in the Air Force." And so, hey, yo, and my dad said the funniest shit to me. I'll never forget this, right? And I'm sure he'll probably deny it, but he goes, "You're going Air Force, bro. They don't deploy." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I got deployed. But
I'm like, I'm never going to war. I'm in the Air Force. I ain't.
yeah,
Yep, this person here got blown off. This person's here got died. This person here got blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh shoot. And then my first deployment, sure enough, because I did my first deployment came after I was in for like 3 almost 4 years. Because I went from a nuke base to Korea. That's controlled, and then you have your dwell time. But after that
yep.
dwell time was up, we were out, and it was hot, and it was hot in that time. And yep, we were out. But that was one of my best experiences, man. Now that we're
Yeah,
good, all of us are good because, dude, not many people are gonna get to see that. And yeah, some parts suck, but it was I ain't gonna lie to you. I'll do it again. I do it again.
I've told people, and it's weird though because like where I didn't even realize like my friends had all told me they're like, "Yo, you're going to one of the chillest bases, but you always gotta be ready because there's always something going on, right? But you're gonna be okay." But I was at that point where I was like, I don't want to go. I didn't even volunteer for this. I got asked if I wanted to go. I said no. They still put me in. Like I was like hot about it. But to be real, like it was one of the best things because I think what I ended up doing was something I needed to do anyway was to, like grow up, right? To grow into who I was. Um, and I tell people all the time, I was like, yeah, the Cliff that you used to know back in like 2003, 2004, like that guy is he's not even in existence. He's just you. It's a whole different dude. Um, but coming back, man, it was crazy because I realized how how the big Air Force worked. And the one thing that I understood too was like when you go somewhere, like especially when you're going overseas, you're getting like a book, like a giant book of knowledge, right? And it's your you get to look through it, you get to study it, understand it, and that's what I was doing, right? When I got back home front, it was like I got like 3 or 4 slivers of that page, and I was like, "This book sucks." It's like I want the big book that I got when I was overseas, and when I was teaching me how to do this. Uh, but what was also crazy, what I was going to get to too, was that being overseas, man, like I said, there was a lot of things that happened. Like I got the Dear John email, right? I know most people get Dear John letters, but I got the Dear John email, and I was like, well, this sucks, you know. And I had a lot of lows and a lot of highs, but I was like, you know, it changed me as a person. When I came back, I was like, all right, I'm a whole different person. This is who I want to be. This is where I want to go, and this is what I want to do. And I kind of stay true to who that person is now, and even incorporate it into like my wrestling character side.
Yeah, man. It just like, it builds character, and I truly believe that. And like the military is not for everybody, man. But you said something important. You did 4 years, and you were proud. Like I used to be an instructor. Oh, six, you did six. So I was an instructor at the academy, Security Forces Academy, and I would tell my students all the time because the propaganda was, and I call it propaganda, is like, hey, I'm thinking about getting out. Well, what you can do? There's nothing out there. Bullshit. If you set yourself up, you can do anything you want. You set your heart to. So I tell my students straight up, which is not good Air Force of me, but I have to be honest for my kids. You know, they still reach out to me. By the way, I'm 4 years removed. They still reach out to me. That I'm like, listen, man, whether you do 4 or 6 years or you retire, you better do the best job you can because you make the most of it. You know what I'm saying? This is not for everybody. Some people are gonna not they're gonna make it to one enlistment. Some people are gonna make it to one enlistment, but like, this ain't for me. It's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be that way. That's what makes the thing work. Like not everybody's gonna retire, not everybody's gonna do 4 years. I got out after a very long time. Like why didn't you retire with that rank? Well, because I decided that I wanted to bet on myself and not get stuck in Montana or whatever it was they want to send me out to. They're supposed to guarantee me my bases, and I want to be a professional wrestler because I wasn't even allowed to go to Mexico at the time to wrestle when I was living in Texas. So I want to do this. I want to bet on myself. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. You know what I mean? But what do you get out of it? You know what I'm saying? Cliff, you're probably better. You're probably better performer as a wrestler because of that and discipline that it was. It's all this. All these things happen subconsciously. You know what I mean? We don't know that we're disciplined. We realize that we are when the time comes. We all damn. I'm pretty. And military is good for that. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. I don't really recommend everybody to join. Let's talk about it because it may be for you, it may not be for you, or you may not know nothing and it might be for you. Like I spent a lot of time in the Air Force, and I'll tell you what, when I was about to become an E6, and that's when I finally bought into the process. In other words, when I became a sergeant, I hated it. I hated it. And then for some reason, after a few years, it just shifted. I'm like, I get it. And then you start getting it more. And then I actually now, to this day, it's it sounds bad, but it defines a big portion of who I am. It doesn't define me totally, but a big portion of who I am is still the big Sarge or Sergeant Batista, as they used to call me. Like, you know what I mean? Because I get DMs and text messages. Thank you. I made one of my students like, hey, I made E6 and I want to thank you. I didn't do nothing. I was an instructor. but but they value so differently because I didn't do anything. I was there for 3 months at a time, you know, and it's like, but they value you, and that's the best. You know how in the locker room they say you see in WWE like Hall of Fame speeches, like the best reward you get is the admiration of your peers. That's what I feel in the military to this day. Like, you know, I get master sergeants still calling me up. Hey, what will you do about this situation? I'm like, dude, I've been 4 years removed. Nah, bro, tell me. All right, cool. This is I don't know if I'm outdated, but this is what I would do, and it's the best. It's the best accolade, the best commendation, the best whatever, right? The best medal you can get is that respect from your peers or or your former troops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love it. I appreciate it to this day. I'm telling you, this happened last week, man. One of those thank you to the DM, and I'm like, damn, that's what's up.
Well,
You know?
that's the thing for me too. Is like I still have a bunch of friends who are all like higher ranked than me, and like I still reach out to them to this day and just be like, "Yo, like this is what's going on. Just want to keep in touch with you, because like a lot of the supervisors you have, like they're gonna make a big big impact on your life. And unfortunately, so what's funny for me is, right, I treated the military, and this is sound, and somebody out there is gonna be all pissed off about this, and I don't really give a shit. But I treated the military like it was a prison sentence, right? And like, yo, I'm doing 6 years, I'm getting out. That's all it was. And if I was like, if I like it, then maybe I'll stay in a little longer, but I don't know. But I remember my first night of being in the military, right? And I have never told this story before, so here's one for y'all. So no shit, there I was, right, on the plane flying to Denver, or from Denver to San Antonio, and I get on the bus, and this kid is sitting next to me, and I can't remember the kid's name. That's how crazy this was. So he tells me right to my face, he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm 20 year in, bro. I'm doing it for life. Like, this is what we're doing." I was like, "All right." He's like, "How long you in?" I was like, "6 years, bro. I'm just gonna, do my thing and get out." And that's exactly how I treated it. This man, we go to our flights, right? And he's in my flight. Um, and I'll never forget, we did OJT night one, right, with all the first week with the brother flight, right? And then they the first night that we get to do our own dorm guards, right? This kid goes into the bathroom, and I remember like going in, taking a piss first, and then this kid walks in. I'll never forget this. He goes, "Hey, Miller," and I look right at him. He goes, "Shh," and just smokes his face off of a sink. Boom, busts his face right open, just starts bleeding ridiculously, right? And I remember like running over outside, telling the dorm guards, like, "Hey, yo, guy, I need someone to call Sergeant Morgan right now. Like, we got a person, he's bleeding all over the place." And I remember going in, taking paper towels, putting on his face, and like holding and putting pressure, right? And then, you know, all of a sudden, staff sergeant show up, tech sergeant. They asked me what happened. I was like, "Yo, this guy walked in. I was literally taking a piss, and then he smoked his face off the sink, and then I just yelled at them, started putting, trying to take care of this man. I'm like, all right, well, wash up, get to bed, don't think about it." I'm like, easy. Went to bed, didn't think about this kid again. But he was still on our flight. This kid still had stitches in his head. Like 2 days later, he's back in our flight, like has stitches. And then eventually it got to the point where they're like, "Yo, we gotta take you to 319. And if you know anything about the military, you know what the 319 is." So they send this man over to 319. And I was like, "Bruh." And I was under, like, they were like, "You sure you didn't push him? You sure you didn't smash his face off him?" It's like, no, 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 no. I have no reason to lie about this. I literally what happened was what happened. And I'll never forget this was the kid getting yelled at for 1 week. And he just smoked his face off this sink. And I was like, "How? And I was like, "You was in the bus talking big noise. 20 plus year, bro. That's what I'm gonna do." And I was like, "This is," and I think it's because like some people, like, they can't handle like being talked down to, and so they just get in this mindset that like, "Well, I'm not gonna handle this. This isn't me." Blah blah blah. And then when you look in look in wrestling, there are some veterans out there who will not talk to you, but they'll talk down to you. And you kind of have to take it in your aspect of pulling yourself out of the situation and not really, I don't want to say not being disrespectful back, but just kind of like standing your ground. Because that's one thing, like, especially in basic training, like they're gonna tell you, like they tell you all the time, like, "Don't think, we will think for you. Just do what we tell you." And I was like, it's easy. And so when I have a veteran yelling at me about some shit that happens, I'm just like, "What are we doing?" Like, "All right, cool. Well, this is what happened, and this is the situation that played out, and we're gonna keep it going." But I think about a lot of this, and I still think about these stories about like shit that happened in the military, and I was like, bro, I'm still dumbfounded by this moment about this one kid in the sink. And I was like, I see other kids who are like, I don't know, they go off script, and I'm just like, why? Why did we go off script? We had a plan. Just stick to the plan. Just shut up and just color. Just do your thing.
Yeah, because everybody wants to be the top dog fast, but that way, man, you got to work your way up, and some people can't take that pressure. It's like you join basic training, and you conquer the world, and that first week hits, and you're like, "There's no mommy here. There's nobody. You got to make it on your own, right?" Same thing. First, I wanna be a wrestler. It's in my blood since I was a kid, and blah blah blah. You go to a legit school, credible school, they smoke you, and they're not gonna smoke you in the sense to just be. Well, they shouldn't. That's old school. Nowadays, I know where I broke in. No one abused me, but it was hard. I came into wrestling training already in shape because I was an instructor, but I was not nowhere near in wrestling shape, and I was burnt out. It was a smoke session. I went to, I couldn't go no more, and then I went some more just to see if I would quit. And I'm like, you have to kind of like have that resiliency to understand like this is part of the game, and then also decipher what's right and what's wrong. Because like I said, I was smoked. And maybe I didn't have to get smoked that way. We could argue, maybe yes, maybe no, but I know that I wasn't abused. You know what I'm saying? I know that for a fact. I wasn't abused. It was just, a rite of passage. You want to take before you take a bump, you do the calisthenics that is required to become a professional wrestler. And it's true. I wasn't in wrestling shape. So it's just weird how those parallels, how they align themselves,
Yep.
I don't necessarily got yelled at, but when people come out of pocket in the wrestling world, I have two philosophies. One, I check out the person because they're credible, kind of like that leader right in the military. If they're right, you kind of decipher what's right and wrong. You shut up, you learn. If not, I just keep my mouth shut and just keep it moving because not that might be good advice or maybe in your mind it is, but it may not apply to me. Keep it moving because unfortunately you receive bad advice and you have to kind of decipher that. Like all right, but the military taught me that, man. I'm telling you, the military has taught literally the way I think I'm able to operate in the wrestling business is in part thanks to the military, just kind of raising me a certain type of way, gave me a certain demeanor. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. It's crazy though, man, because like it's I don't know. I think about the Air Force, and I think, and I'm grateful for all the lessons that I was ever taught, like in the Air Force, right? Like, sometimes like one of the biggest lessons I took away from it, right, and it's probably one of the hardest lessons I've learned in life is that you can do all the stuff that you want to do. You could be the picture perfect person, right? Do all the things that's asked of you to do. Sometimes it's just not going to happen for you though. Like I know, like for me, like I was really good at my job, and I know I was really good at my job because I had other units asking me about how I'm doing the things I'm doing for my job. You know, when I held every single position that you could in my duty station, I was holding everything that I could, like as far as where my rank could take me. When it came down to testing, I studied, I did all things, and then I just realized, you know what? Sometimes like it's just not meant to be. Like it's just not gonna happen. And that's where like in when I got into this business, right? I didn't tell myself. And listen, I got into this business because I was like, I genuinely want to see if I can hang and bang, like I think I can. And so far, the answer is yes. But if you were to be like, "Are you gonna go to WWE?" No, because I'm too old. I get it. It's just not meant to be. But what I can do is have fun, hang and bang, and make a name for myself while I'm here and enjoy what I'm doing, which is exactly what I'm doing. And so, I think the Air Force taught me like, hey, sometimes it's just not gonna happen, but it's fine. Just enjoy what you're doing. And I've come to accept that, especially with this.
There's nothing wrong with that. I got a perspective from not his name drop, but William Regal doing short, and he essentially told the group that he was talking to the same thing. Like if you want to be a what they call a weekend warrior, which mostly wrestling is on the weekend, anyways, right? That's fine. If you want to make it to the bigger companies, then do that. But just understand what you're asking for. You know what I mean? Understand what you're asking for is what you want. But if you want to be here, just do the just do the best job you can. Don't take it like a joke only because you do it once a month or locally. Like take it serious and have fun with it. That's the most important thing. So that's your mentality. I don't think you're wrong, and I don't think you're business or locker room so long as you're being uh like you're treating it with respect. You know what I mean? Like we're talking the military, have integrity in what we do, and go out there and execute. You know what I mean? My goals are a little bit more exaggerated. You know what I mean? But that's what flows. That's what That's my cup of tea. That's what I want to do. And I think there's places in wrestling for everybody. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody wants to be a master sergeant. Don't everybody wants to lead? When I was an instructor supervisor in the schoolhouse, not everybody wanted that position. I didn't want it. I was given it, but it's like, all right, well, let's rock with it. So it's just one of those things. Like, everybody fits. You just gotta make. What are you good at? What do you want out of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I definitely, for me too, it's like, I just, like I said, to me, at the end of the day, hanging and banging and having fun and just, and also being safe, right? Like that's also the bigger
Yeah.
part too. Like you want to do all that stuff. The funniest part is when I start talking to people, I'm like, yeah, you got to practice good ORM, and no one else knows what that means except for a select few, and I'm like, oh, okay, you understand what ORM is? Great. So, yeah.
You, um, it's funny talking about all this military stuff. Like I say this oftentimes when people ask me. I miss it every single day, but every single day I miss it a lot. I'm so in love with that lifestyle, and it's not the military I'm in love with. Is so to me they ask me. So they always ask me. So what's the best and the worst part about the military? So I answer and I say people, or both. And I miss that. I miss that. I miss leading. I miss camaraderie. I miss the fun times. I miss the wild times. I miss being in the shit and going doing stupid shit. Not that I'm crazy to want to go into these situations, but it's just like if we're here, we do it, then let's do our work. But I have my uniforms hung up. I haven't hung them up yet because I live in a place where I don't want to be here forever. So I'm not trying to invest too much in it. But I have my shadow box up, some degrees and blah blah blah. But my uniforms are in my closet. I kept one uniform for every era. Um, and I look at my uniform and I'm like, damn, do I really want to get into that uniform today? And the answer is always no. But at the same time, I'm like, if they call you right now to come do some stuff, what would the answer be? And I'm like, yeah. And my wife doesn't like that, but I'm like, it's just what I know. Because you got to remember, I've at this point in my life, I know more that life than this life that I'm living now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I've been a wrestler for 7 years. I've been out the military for 4, but I did significantly more in the military. So it's like, you know, my life, man, is what I became an adult inside the military. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I miss it. I miss it. I miss it a lot. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it's over with, and I'm ready to tackle the world here as a wrestler, man. I'm really hyper focused because my dreams are it's like little milestones and dreams are coming true,
Yeah.
and then once my life changed pretty significantly. It's just that we don't see it here in America because we don't get access to those Caribbean channels, or Latin American channels, I should say. But it's been weird in the last 3 months. So I'm like, man, I wonder where this could go in a year.
Yeah. Well, it's funny for that you mentioned that, right? Because I've been out for 12 years now, since I got out in April 2012. My actual uniform is still hung up right there, right. I can actually see it right now in my closet. Like it's still hung up. That and my blues are right behind it. And I know I'm not, and I'm 100% no, I'm never gonna get back in. But I'm like, yo, it's just nice to see. I'm like, oh, I still see my uniform right there, just chilling out, and I can definitely appreciate that. You mentioned something, and I want to hop into this part of the topic too, because not only are we both former military, pero estoy latinos también, and
Yep.
it's a massive part of who we are, and
Yep.
it's a massive part of what we talk about. And I'm always curious because, like, recently, Brian F. Pro, shout out to you. He just said that he wasn't going to do the HLW 500 this year, which
Hmm.
sad. And I told him I was like, I would love to like help out with that any way I can, but it just never meant to be. But he always does the picture collages and stuff like that. But to me, and I kind of want to see how you feel about this too. Like getting into this, right? Like I've always thought about like Latino wrestlers, especially. Like we've always been kind of told that we're gonna be one of few people, right? Like you can be like a thug, you can be a luchador, you're gonna be like like you're just kind of stereotyped into what you're gonna be,
Yep.
right? But what was the beautiful thing is that like you've seen so many different wrestlers come out now and they're starting to represent something bigger, right? And granted, Rey Mysterio, being that he is like at this generation's like Silver King, right? Like we all see what he's put into the business, and Colon as well, right? But it's like you see all the different characters now are starting to show up. Like you don't have to be just this person. You can be this person. You can do this, or you want to be a mercenary who cracks jokes in the fourth wall. That's me. I get to do those things now. So I just want to know, like, where are you putting you're putting your inch on the benchmark of Latino wrestlers?
As far as like how I carry myself into the business,
Yeah.
well, that's the thing. So I've been a part of this crew for IFC First Class, right? I, in when I did this heel turn, I finally started to be more like me naturally, and WWC apparently they like that, and they don't pigeonhole me into demographic. In fact, I'm the one who's pigeonholing myself in a demographic, and they're allowing me to be me, which is an obnoxious Dominican who's rich, who's very much a New Yorker, and you could tell by my dialect because I speak Spanish, but you could tell that I'm not native necessarily, and that gets him upset. And all the stuff that I do from New York and my influences from Dominican, because I'm very much Dominican, I travel there all the time, obviously. You know what I'm saying? It's very much in just shredded like in bits and pieces of my gimmick in Puerto Rico. So I'm able to be myself. So I don't have to come out and be the Dominican that necessarily plays baseball. Although I have a baseball tatted because I'm a baseball player, I don't have to come dance merengue because I don't have to. I could do whatever I want to do. I could be a true Dominican, which is layers to. Latinos are very. We're all the same, but we're all different, and we're very complex, right? And we all have different layers. So, and I could do that as a Dominican. I could speak the way I speak. I could mix it in with a little English because people think that I'm Dominican. I can't speak English. Well, I go ahead and kick them with that English. And I'm myself. I don't have to be like a. I don't want to name drop people that are signed to big companies in the past. But there's always a little stigma with their character. There's always this little music, this generic music that kind of signifies, oh, he's Puerto Rican or he's Mexican or he's this or he's that, and they, oh, hey, and it's just very fake and not generic. But when I work, it comes very natural. You see me walking the you seen somebody like me walking the street in New York, or you seen me somebody like me walking the street in the Dominican Republic, or you see me on TV or version of me on TV because that's very identifiable, right? And yeah, and I like the fact that I'm not. None of us are first class. We are ourselves, but we're very much Dominican, but we're influenced by the American culture because we're also New Yorkers, and it's kind of cool than just saying, well, I have to say every other word. I gotta say, hey man, or papi, or hey, I don't have to say these things. I could do that and do more, and it's cool. It's cool. Like I don't, Eddie Guerrero doesn't have to come out. Orale Holmes. Well, I don't have to be Orale Holmes Dominican version. I could just be me, and it translates because it strikes the core. Um, it's bad even. Like I have to get escorted in and out of the arenas. You know what I mean? That's how bad it is, the heat, and it's just all being myself. You know what I mean? Or a version of myself, I should say, because my character
Yeah.
is not able to be a parent. I don't think, but but yeah, man, it's just influencing your own behaviors into your actual work as opposed to just um you just pigeonholing yourself. Because I feel like people sometimes need a re-education. When I joined the military, every time people get confused with me, never here at home, but in the military, people always got confused. Hey, man, Batista, you're mixed with what? I'm like, if you want to look down my lineage, I'm probably mixed with a whole lot. As far as my parents, I'm not mixed with anything. I'm straight Dominican. But if you want to get technical, I'm probably a whole bunch of things. Like, no, you're mixed with, no, I'm not. So what's Dominican? Is like, I'm Hispanic. What was that, like Mexican? Or they say either Mexican, which is number one, and sometimes they'll say Puerto Rican. That tells me that people are not really educated to what Latin America has to offer, or the Caribbean. There's so many layers
Hmm.
to it. You know what I mean? There's so many layers. And my character, any of the fellows from first class, we are able to re-educate people outside of the Northeast because they kind of know what Dominican is. Outside of the Northeast, that this is what Dominicans bring to the table. They're not so here. There's so many different aspects to them. Like any human being, right? Like a white guy is not just a white guy unless you want to be. Black guy is not just a black guy. Like we're human. We're complex. We have layers, and
100%.
yeah, and our character is not confined to music, a stereotype, food, the way we dress, the way we speak. You're not. No, we do whatever we want because that's a natural way of living in New York City. You see that reflecting in our work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's no doubt because like for me, being Panamanian and like trying to rep my culture, right, and just talk about it, but people like always get it twisted. This is like they act like that they're like, oh well, where are you from? Like I mean, I was like, was born in the U.S., but my mom's from Panama. I was like, and I'm very proud of that. They're like, wait, you don't sound Panamanian. I was like, did you miss the part where I said I was born in America? I was like, I've lived a couple years in Panama. I was like, I have a tattoo, and I'm very proud of like my heritage and where I've come from and what I've done. And my mom's always like teaching me new stuff anyway, like from from the land. And so no one thing when people were like, well, what did you bring? What does Panamanians bring? I was like, bruh, fucking we got the canal, bro. Like if you want more specifically, bro, we started reggaeton. Like that's
Yep.
us. We did it. I was like, so I mean, where were you trying to go? And for me, what was funny is like getting into wrestling. I I didn't know very many people who were from Panama. I just didn't. It's just a thing, like, you know. So I remember looking it up one night and I saw there was like two people, right? One of them was like a retired wrestler. There was like a female, and she only wrestled in Panama. And then like Heritage Month came, right? And there's Bobby Lashley, and Bobby was talking about how he's, you know, Afro Latino and he's from Panama. And I was like, bro, I found my dude. This is who my guy is. I'm gonna follow this dude, and he's former military as well. I was like, this is crazy. And he also, I don't know if you knew, but he wrestled NAIA, which is like right underneath NCAA. It's like just another organization. And I had wrestled at NAIA, and I was like, bro, all right, Bobby Lashley is my favorite wrestler of like all time now because of this. I was like, we literally are walking a path. And I just think back to where, like, you know, it's just it's you know, we get to be who we get to be, and then we get to spin off and show off what our culture is, but also like who we are. And you know, and I get to show off this portion of me where I'm very brash and very outgoing, outlandish, and just talks a lot of shit, and just for no reason, just because I can. And I think about how I want people to be like, all right, so clearly, you know, he's not this, so he gets to do this, or he's doing this, and so I can kind of see his track. And I want people to know, like, yo, as Latinos, it's all in general, like, we all love, we all have our thing. We all love our music. We all love, you know, whatever it is that you want to talk about. You want to be Dominican or Panamanian? We love baseball. We do. We do. But we're not gonna sit back here and be like, this is who we're gonna be. This is exactly what we're gonna be. Especially in this business, we're just like, I'm gonna show you who we are, and then you can kind of figure your own path after that.
I mean, the Rock is half black, half Samoan. They tried doing that gimmick kind of a thing, but what is the Rock when you think about it? He doesn't have a like the Rock. Even his music, it's not really. You can't pigeonhole. Is that music? Is it? I mean, was it rock? Is it pop? Is it hip hop? You know what I mean? It's a medley of things, and I feel like I think it'll be a disservice if I don't honor the fact that I'm a first generation American and I'm Dominican. You know, I'm Dominican American, and I feel like you should be able to, if you want to influence that in your work. You know what I mean? Like again, you don't have to be the "What's up, Holmes?" Because I know many Mexicans that don't speak that way. You know what I mean? And like, there's many layers to how Mexicans speak. In fact, when I lived in Texas for 5 years, not one Mexican called me Holmes. They have their own language. The Tex-Mex, yeah, they have their own flow of talking, but it's nothing like the West Coast. But we typically either say West Coast Mexican. Oh, you got to be that. No, you know what I
Yep.
mean? It just does. It doesn't necessarily correlate, right? So I don't know. I hope to be able to somehow influence if I go to a different company and you know main company in America. I hope I get to keep my style, which is very much American and Dominican influence, because I like having both. Because I can reach to I can reach more people. I can speak in both languages, and I understand the culture. Because every culture is influenced now. You know, my music is a mix of hip hop and Dominican trap. And the artist, who's my guy, shout out to George Illis, he literally raps in Spanish and English in the track. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a New York thing to do for Dominican. You know what I mean? And it's translate. It translates now. Reggaeton does the same thing essentially right now. You know, and it's so I don't know. I try to let people know that I am Dominican, but I'm quick to let them know that I speak rather well and that I'm American. I'm American born. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they my coach wanted me to be like this, not Sergeant Slaughter, but he wanted me this USA guy because I started wrestling while I was in the military and I was stationed in San Antonio, living in San Antonio, and I was wrestling all over Texas, but mostly in San Antonio. And I'm like, I don't, and I was a baby face, and it's like, oh man, I get it, but I want to wear. I grew up watching Macho Man and trunks, man, and boots. Wear fatigues and salute and like I do that for a living. I want to just let loose here, be me, and for a while I struggled finding myself because I couldn't be me as a baby face and as a heel. It's like okay, now I could just. It just started to click. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Click, and who knows how it's gonna evolve a year from now. But like, yeah, man, like only because I'm in the military, I have to be Mr. USA. Like I don't get it. You know, it's just not. Hulk Hogan wasn't in the military, and he was legitimately Mr. USA. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, USA, USA. I don't think Sergeant Slaughter was in the military. You know what
He
I mean?
wasn't in this. I don't care what anybody says, and I know he follows me on Twitter. He was never in the military.
Just the body, a Navy SEAL, and his gimmick is nothing military. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
So it's like, why do I have to? If he doesn't have to put himself in that hole and he was a Navy SEAL, then why should I? You know, I'm a combat vet like he is. So nah, you know, I think it's cool for the fans to know, or people that not even the fans, our people, so they could have that. Because there's a lot of guys in
Yep.
the military. I fell in love with wrestling again after leaving wrestling as a fan because of the military. My first base, I was surrounded by nothing but wrestling nuts. And during roll call, my flight chief used to, call your last name. You respond back with the post, and it would be like Batista. I'm like blah blah blah. He'd be like fucking animal, and everybody will laugh. And I'm like every day Batista. I'm like blah blah blah, fucking animal. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy calling me an animal for? He must be fucking giving me the rookie treatment, you know? And they're like, you don't get it? Like what? The animal Batista, because that's my shoot last name. And I'm like, ah. And it's like, you don't watch wrestling? So I love wrestling, but I haven't watched it in years. And then that started reigniting my love in my first base, man, '05 in Missouri, the middle of nowhere, Missouri. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's
I remember I got into. I see. The funny thing was, I got in. I thought that your trainer gave you your first gimmick. Like I didn't know, right? So he was always like, "Yo, I want you to be the military dude, like a mercenary, but you got to be like stoic, be like you would be like if you're in the military." And I was like, "You've never served a day in a life of the military. You have no idea what you're talking about."
everybody.
And so like yeah, and I try to be that role, right? I was like, yo, I'm very serious. Cutting these promos very seriously. It just didn't feel natural. It was very forced. And so finally went down, I was like, yo, bro, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I've been trying for like 6 months to make it work. It's just not happening for me. We need to change this up. He's like, okay, well, let's cut a promo how you would have cut a promo. And the first time I cut this promo, just kind of relaxed, finally like unpeeled the shells and stuff like that. He's like, okay, well, you're gonna cut promos every single day like that because I like how this energy is. And he's like, this feels more natural to you, but then I also like the aspect of you still wanting to be a mercenary and just kind of like play off of all of that stuff. And I was like, bet. And even now, like I've gone through and I've been doing that the whole, the whole Deadpool style gimmick for about a couple years now. And even now, just recently, like I wanted to start teaming up with my boys over in Maryland who was known as Pure Ignorance. And I was like, yo, let me start teaming up with them and rocking with them. And I find even more stuff that I love doing and love cutting promos and talk the way I'm talking. I'm like, okay, this definitely feels more like me. I was like, I'm definitely enjoying this side of like cutting a promo and talking shit. I was like, this is definitely more natural to me now. And so I've kind of and put that into, into like the Merc character of Red Dog, but more now like I get to add more pieces to it. So as I'm finding more pieces that I'm enjoying, I'm like, all right, I'm building this world up the way I want to build it up, and I'm enjoying the ride. So I definitely, yeah, it's been crazy, and I'm very jealous of you, by the way, just for you saying that you had a whole entire crew that was like wrestling nuts. Because I wish that I had a couple people on my flight that loved wrestling, but nobody in my in my on my whole entire in my flight that are a couple people in my team that liked wrestling, but in my flight that was like looked down on. Like they were like, nah,
Bro,
we don't do this.
bro, my first flight in Missouri, my first base, I'm like, what the fuck? Everybody was into that, music, sports. I'm like, lovely. When I made second base in Korea, not so much, but people will understand what it is. I'll buy all my WrestleMania DVDs for fake, because they have a good quality. And I had like the whole whatever WrestleMania was up to that day, from the one to whatever day, and I would watch it. And before the gym get pumped up, all my friends who didn't care, who didn't watch it, will watch it with me just cause. In my third base, it wasn't. I was stationed in Jersey, and yeah, it was on and off. But when Raw came to town on SmackDown, people be like, "Yo, Batista, you gonna go to Raw SmackDown?" Yes, you know what I mean. My bosses even gave me the day off. Like, yo, are you going to the Monday night show? They didn't know what his name was. Don't come tomorrow because I know it's gonna be late. Got it. You know what I mean? Um, it's just so it's like you have that kind of, but not really. But my first base, it really reignited that love as a fan because I stopped. I stopped after the Attitude Era, like pretty much into the Ruthless Aggression Era. I pretty much was on and off because life and miserable. I was miserable, but I was working hard and playing baseball, doing all these things. And it was like, and I had no idea that becoming a professional wrestler was a thing. You know what I mean? The only way I thought it was maybe like tough enough. I was ignorant. I didn't even know about the indies until I got stationed in my third base in New Jersey, and I was like, "There's wrestling here locally," and I went to a match at the Firehouse. And you know who I saw before he became who he was? LSG was in that card. He said he was
Oh,
brand
wow.
new, and I saw him at a Firehouse in Jersey, and that's when I started kind of digging in and looking for wrestling schools. And then when I finally found the Monster Factory, I got orders to become an instructor in Texas, and I'm like, well, there goes that dream. But then I found Texas Wrestling Academy, which was Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, and I'm like, it's meant to be. I'm gonna have to make it work, and luckily I did. But yeah, man, it was the military. The military did not help me grow up in the sense that it made it worse that I wanted to be a wrestler. It made it worse. And it made it worse. It just took me so long to do it because I was afraid. You know.
Bruh. All right, man. Well, I'm going to hop into my favorite part of the 3 Count Podcast, which is the 3 Count Podcast 10 count questions. And here's how it works. I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you, rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that is your answer.
All right.
All right, so let's put the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
Oh, come on. Gosh. It's a toss-up, man. Between Scarface and like Ace Ventura when nature calls.
I love them both, bro. We taking both those answers because those are both great choices. Marvel or DC?
I guess Marvel. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
Ooh. Favorite TV show. Oh, favorite TV show. Favorite TV show. Favorite TV show. Right now or ever?
We go with both.
Shoot, man. Cause ever, I like comedy, so it's like shoot. It's one of those HBO shows. It's an HBO show. Man, I want to see The Sopranos, but I'm like comedy, so I'm like Eastbound and Down. Let's go with The Sopranos.
Okay. Eastbound and Down is a good pick too. I like that as
Like,
well. Waffles or pancakes?
oh, pancakes.
Favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon. What's my favorite cartoon? Favorite cartoon. What's my favorite cartoon growing up? I don't know. Damn, I don't know. I don't know. I never thought about that.
That's all right. That's all right. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite podcast?
Oh my God. 3 Count Podcast. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, what are we talking about? Nominate one person that you want to see on the show.
Ooh, one person. Does it have to have a military-centric background?
Nah.
Ooh, one person I would love to see on this show. One person. What? The guy that I hate the most, and is probably one of my best friends in the business. He's a huge wrestler right now in Texas, and he works for Booker T, and he's radar. He's money. His name is Max Castellanos, and I'm talking about he's big time in Texas. And the reason I want you to like to see on the podcast is he doesn't have a military background, but he's extremely disciplined, almost as if he was in the military. And he's a solid kid, young but super solid, good wrestler. In fact, I wrestled him in the WrestleMania weekend show in AEW, and he's money. It's a matter of time before he gets on TV, like mainstream TV.
Okay. Okay. And then last but not least, my favorite question I ask every single person who comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
It's a simple word, man. It's something that I feel like it's water at this point, man. Like especially when you're from a military, yeah, you're in the military, like it just becomes a word that's just like water. It's just like it's a natural thing to be said now.
Because I don't use it only for anger. It's like fuck, fuck, fuck. You know, it's just what the
Exactly. Hey, so those are all my questions I have for you, man. So the last thing I need you to do is let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
yes, yes. This is what I need help at. Instagram, Tony Leyenda. Uh, Facebook, Tony Leyenda. X, Tony Leyenda 8. Heck, I'm even on YouTube, Tony Leyenda. Yeah, just please follow the journey because the last 3 months have been. I'm keeping my feet on the ground because I don't know how long this is gonna ride, but this is the. I've been blessed with the opportunity of a lifetime, um, and it's been months and it's been crazy. So I'm still working the indies, obviously, but it's like I'm part of a big time company there in Puerto Rico, and it's life has been it has changed in a short period of time. But I'm keeping the ground because I need more to make the most of this experience. But you need the help of people like you, obviously, right? Because this is what keeps this is what keeps us relevant. It's hard for indie wrestler, right? We have to make our big. A lot of great talent out there that people will never know because of whatever reason, right? So if you get the support from the people, go ahead and follow me, and I promise I provide I'll provide entertainment for you at a minimum. So if you're down, go ahead to my page. You'll laugh at me at a minimum, and you'll feel something. You'll feel something other than anger or whatever is that's bothering you. Forget and focus on that. So man, give me a like, follow, all that good stuff, because we all need the love and support to try to make something out of ourselves in this world of professional wrestling.
Facts, super facts. Well, with that being said, like my favorite part of a wrestling match, we gotta take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host Clifford Red Dog Miller, man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like I said, every good Sherpa, it's never about me, it's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You see him right there, Tony Leyenda, and you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're even checking us out on Amazon Music. And you're listening to us on that dumb app with the stupid jingle that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it is. So you're checking us out on all of our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com, or you're checking it out on ForYourWear.com. You're telling your mom about us, your dad about us, your aunties, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your best friends, and your enemies, because we love haters too. You're doing all that stuff, or really you're just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is to kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3Count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on ForYourWear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love, because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.